Someone is always watching what you do, and someone is always listening to what you say. So in order to have the kind of culture that you want, your words and your actions have got to match. I've known leaders that seem to think that you can just say this is the culture you want and it happens. But if you don't live what you want that culture to be, it's not going to suddenly create itself. Leadership is lifting a person's vision to higher heights, the raising of a person's performance to a higher standard, and the building of a personality beyond its normal limitations. Welcome back to the Empathic Leader, where we talk about all things EQ, empathy, and leadership. I am Dr. R, and I'm so happy to have you here. Please like and subscribe. And we are going through my book, one chapter at a time, just to give you a little taste of what's going on with it. In this chapter, we spend time actually talking about leadership, but not just for those at the top. If there's one group that I really have my hope set on, it's the middle managers. It's the ones in the middle. And there's two reasons why. Number one, because they have the ability to manage up and down, or at least the opportunity, they can touch the most people. They can affect the most change. But number two, these are the people that are ready to learn these leadership skills, that maybe haven't had the leadership training that would have been helpful. And as they integrate these and move up, we'll bring them with them. And that's how we get things like EQ via empathy into top-level positions. The thing with middle managers as well is they actually suffer the worst burnout, because even though they can ripple out, they can also get squished in between. They're tough roles to take. So I actually spent quite a bit of time in this chapter just talking about those positions in particular and why they're so important and how we can use them to ripple EQ via empathy out. Just because they weren't trained as leaders doesn't mean they can't be leaders. I also spent quite a bit of time talking about culture. Culture is another one of those intangible things, right? I mean, we talk about company culture, we talk about organizational culture, but if you actually had to have a definition, it's just kind of, this is the way we do things here. I spend a certain amount of time talking about creating a culture that exceeds expectations, and that middle managers can affect this, create this culture, and definitely within their microcosm, you can create the kind of culture that's necessary or that you want, but that it really comes down from the top. These top-level leaders need to imbue their company with culture. Here's the trick. Someone is always watching what you do, and someone is always listening to what you say. So in order to have the kind of culture that you want, your words and your actions have got to match. I've known leaders that seem to think that you can just say this is the culture you want and it happens. But if you don't live what you want that culture to be, it's not going to suddenly create itself. And a lot of times this is unconscious. Again, people aren't malicious. It's not like they're going out and saying, I'm going to wreck this culture. It's not like that. But you have to be aware of what's happening. For example, we talk about how trust is built when words and actions are congruent over time, right? People understand you say what you're going to do, you do what you're going to say, and they can rely on that. And they know to trust you. It's the same with culture. If you say we have a culture of respect, but people are allowed to go into meetings, probably just one or two people, but yell and scream, no one's going to believe you have a culture of respect, because the words and the actions are incongruent. If you say we have a culture of trust, but people see you walk out with company pens in your pocket, they're not going to believe it. The words and the actions have got to match. Culture is driven by the top. There's no other way around it. So I hope this chapter kind of enlightens a little bit of how we can actually start taking EQ via empathy, which last part we looked at as a whole, and now start rippling it out. Thanks so much for sticking with me, for going through these chapters, and I look forward to seeing you next time.